All right, you got the call. It's the call. You have been trying to get an interview with this company for as long as you can remember. It's like your dream company, the salary, the benefits, but the only problem is it is a level up. So what do you have to do in that interview to achieve an executive level role? Let's get into it.
Welcome to the Sam Linton Show, the podcast designed to help you shift your mindset, find your voice, and change your world. Sam is a pastor, coach, and expert communicator, helping leaders and entrepreneurs like you step into their purpose, speak with confidence, and make a lasting difference. So let's dive in.
All right, well, welcome to our podcast, The Sam Linton Show, and we are back in business, and I'm taking a break from the regular, ongoing, like speaking, presentation, speaking to your team, speaking to your potential team or an audience. And I'm really focusing on an area that I deal with a lot with my clients that I haven't really featured on the show. And it's, what do you do if you are going for an executive role at a new company? Like you are going to become, let's say, and I'm going to give some numbers, all right? So let's say right now you're making six figures, like 100, 150K, 200K. And I don't want to just say it's only about numbers, but I do want to say that the numbers matter. So, those roles, you go normal interviews. Well, as you start to rise in influence, what happens is the interviews become a little bit more challenging. And what I mean by that is, it's not completely out of the ordinary at all. If you are going for a job that, let's say, starts at $250,000 a year, $350,000 a year, $450,000 a year, all the way up to $1 million, I was just coaching somebody through a salary similar. They will have rounds of interviews that include presentations. And it's a different kind of presentation because you are now not a person that has a team that you're speaking to. You're not a person that's speaking to an audience to entertain. You are auditioning. It's very similar to an audition because you're not auditioning like for a role in a show, but you're auditioning in front of a team or in front of decision makers where they're going to determine if they want to look at your face Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, or if you're working for a company where you're making close to $1 million, it's probably going to be, Monday through Monday, like 7 to 8, right? Who knows? But my whole sense for this is that it's more than just your bona fides. And so today I want to work with you on your executive interview skills. I want to help you to figure out what to emphasize when you are getting ready for that executive interview, that job, that dream job, that job where if you got it, we're talking life-changing money. We're talking stupid amount of money. We're talking whatever, so I want to dream a little bit with you. And I also want to tell you that this process is a little more important than just the process of knowing all of your stuff and knowing how to do the job. Now, you might come at me a little bit with that, but I'm going to give you a couple real life examples. So let's get into it. There's a couple things to keep in mind. All right. First, the real purpose of an executive level interview that involves multiple people and more like of a presentation is not for your competence. The real reason why that interview is there is they are assessing the risk of bringing you into their team. They are assessing the risks of bringing you into the team. So here's why you want to trust me a little bit on this subject. First, I have only ever had, unfortunately, or fortunately for you, I've only ever had one job interview in my life. Just one. So you might say, why is dude talking to me about job interviews when dude only had one job interview? And to tell you the truth, I don't know why you're calling me dude, because I thought we were friends. My name is Sam. All right. So, but second thing why that's important is because I have been involved more on the other side of evaluating who to hire. Giving you an example, I started working for a church, the church that I still am the pastor of, almost 21 years ago. Actually, it's exactly 21 years ago. So for 21 years, I've been in an executive level role. Now, a lot of people think, oh, he's a pastor of a church. It's like 20 people. No. Our church right now is in the middle of a $25 million building project that we've been working on for close to a decade. Our church has 5 full-time pastors on staff. We have a lot of auxiliary staff. We have a lot of lay leaders, hundreds of volunteers. So when I say I look at business and I look at the church is way more difficult than anything I have ever done in business. It is light years ahead when it comes to the difficulty in business. So I will tell you that it is just hard to work and run an organization solely on people that don't have to be there. Now, coming back to it, I have interviewed, I'm putting this in air quotes, people for roles formally and informally. The staff that we have here, I've been involved in hiring all of them, almost all of them. I've been involved in helping people to be put on teams for volunteers. I've been involved with ordaining pastors and that type of thing. And I'm not the best at any of this, but here's what I know. I know what I think as an executive leader when I am bringing people into the fold. And what I'm thinking is this person, the risk I'm taking, empowering this person, giving this person a platform in my company, is the risk I'm taking with them small enough that the reward is going to be greater? Because whenever you bring somebody in to a team like that, you're taking a risk on whether or not they're going to fit. So this is the purpose of the executive interview. You might be like, well, no, they're trying to see if I'm competent. I want to let you know on a little secret. They're not going to interview you if they think you're incompetent. That is not going to happen. And here's another big secret. Anything that you are coming into on a job, you're going to have to be trained on how to do that job. So they're not looking necessarily for you to be perfect on. Like, we just hired an operations pastor, and he is phenomenal. Like, phenomenal, amazing at what he does. He's never had pastoral experience. I wanted to hire him for like over a year and a half because I could see in him all of the ingredients, and none of them had to do with his pastoral competency. I've been a pastor for 21 years. So trust me, I know like what those things are. But guess what? He's going to be around me. He's going to be around the other pastors that have been doing it for 42 years, 21 years, and he is going to learn. But I realized that bringing him onto our team was a very low risk because he's really good for the culture. So you have to recognize that when you're in an executive, and this is an executive role he's in. So when you are in an executive role, they are evaluating risks. Are you going to make people either cringe at the idea of working with you? Are they going to torpedo morale? Are they going to bring unnecessary amounts of drama into the team? Or is the risk going to be worth bringing them in because they're actually really, really good as people? All right. So, and again, this is the broad scope. So it's about risk more than it is about competency in the job. And you want to speak like someone who can be trusted with a team. So let me give you an example. If you go into a job, I'm beating this point up. If you go into a job interview and all you're doing is complaining about how sucky your last job is, if the manager that is interviewing you is worth their salt, they're not hiring you. All right? Now, executives, they're going to see this through a mile away. They're gonna be able to tell. If you start bad mouthing, oh, they don't have any culture, and oh, the boss did this, the boss did that. Of course, all companies have issues like that. Of course, all companies have weird things going on in their culture. So you're no different. But your executive leadership team that's going to bring you on doesn't want to hear you crapping all over your last boss, because that means that they're going to look at their wristwatch and go, it's only a matter of time before they're crapping on me. And I think of this so many times when I'm talking to people that come to the church. I'm also thinking of this so many times when I'm talking to people that I've hired to work for my company. That's my red flag. So you want to be a person that can be trusted with the risk of coming onto the team. Can you be trusted with the risk? Okay. Second of all, that's the purpose. All right. Second of all, when you are speaking in front of that team, you are auditioning to see what a day in the life of work would look like with you. So I'll give you an example. I was working with a gentleman who had to do a big presentation. It took weeks to prepare for. It was very, 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 very intricate. And he's a very smart man, way smarter than me. And so he started working with me on the numbers of what he was doing and lots of math. And I'm like, I don't care about any of that, dude. I want to know what you're going to do to make yourself more likable. He was like, likable? I'm like, yeah, that's what they're looking for. If you're going to come there and spend 4 hours with them, going around to the different departments, talking to the different leaders, they are wanting to know about your likability. And so I told him that the most important person in the interview, he's like, yeah, CEO. I said, no. He's like, who's the most important person? I said, the most important person at the interview is the receptionist. Or the admin, whatever they call them. Some of them call receptionists is kind of like 1980. Like my boss still calls the admins for the church. He calls them secretaries. And I feel like secretaries is somehow like, I don't think it's a bad word, but I think that people are used to admin, administrative support, whatever. And so I try to call them administrators. But whoever that admin, whoever that details person is, that is the person that you want to interview in front of. And they're like, well, they're not a decision maker. I said, you have no idea how involved they are in that decision. They are the person that deals with every single person who comes into that company. They are the person who deals with all of the clients that come into that company. So they have a very, very strong opinion about who is coming into the company. And so when you are coming in, you want to make sure that your relationship to that person is as good as it can be. Ask them how they're doing. Get to learn something about them. And why is this important? Because you are speaking with the team, not at the team. You are trying to establish, what would it be like to work with Sam? Would I want to work with Sam? Would I want to call Sam about something that he did wrong? Would I want to call Sam if there is an emergency? This is what I would be thinking if I was hiring myself. Do I want to call that guy? Do I want to depend on that guy? Do I want to need him? Do I want to have a conflict with him? And can it be resolved? Can there be disagreements? On our staff at the church, we have disagreements. It's never coming to blows where I'm going to have this humongous fight. And trust me, I've had people on the staff before where it was like that. I would wake up and cringe because I'd have to have a conversation with them about something that went wrong, and it turned into something massively, overwhelmingly dramatic. And it gave me heartburn, and I hated my life as the leader. So they're looking to make sure that you get along with the staff. So when you're speaking not to impress, but to integrate. You're speaking not to impress, but to integrate. That means that when you're speaking to multiple people, you want to say like, hey, Chuck, I know we met only that once last week when I came in for the first round of interviews, but you had asked me what you thought about this. So I did some research, and this is what I thought. Like, you actually want to value them, not just the CEO. The CEO or the decision makers, they're looking to see, how do you fit in terms of that team? So you want to make the other people feel more important than you are. You are the least important person in that presentation. You have to realize that. You are the least important person in that presentation or that interview. The most important person is the person that you're speaking to across the table. The people that are in that team, the people that are there, they want to see if they want to work with you. I often call this, when I'm talking to my clients, the coffee break room test. And this is the coffee break room test. In this interview, you are establishing, essentially, that if they saw you going to make coffee in the break room, they're going to do one of two things. They're going to A, go, oh, John is going for coffee. I'll join him, and I'll go make coffee too. And so they stand by you at the break room, and they hang out while you're making coffee. Or they are going to see you going in to make coffee. This is the second option. And they go, ooh, John's making coffee. And then they look at their watch and go, okay, I'm going to wait until he's out of there so I can make my coffee. Now, this isn't about busyness. This is about integration. So you have to make sure that when you are interviewing with the team, you want to show that you're a person that is likable, that you are able to get along with the team, even the quirky ones, even the people that are there are people that rub you wrong right off the bat. If you have a team of people that you're interviewing with, there's going to be somebody in that room that rubs you wrong. And guess what? You have to learn how to deal with it. They say something awkward, you don't get combative. You're like, oh, he undermined my credibility. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. They want to see if you can handle the weird guy in the office the way that they've been handling the weird guy in the office for the last decade. They want to see if you've got what it takes. They want to see if you have that tenacity. And so you're interviewing not to impress, but to integrate. So think of you when you're doing that presentation. You're not just showing that you know how to do the job, but you are showing essentially that you are able to be someone that they don't mind spending their time with. So you want to speak with the table and not at the table. You're not giving a presentation. You are auditioning for integration. I know this is so counterintuitive, and I know there's a lot of nuance because it just depends on your role. Now, of course, I'll throw this out to you. If you're auditioning for a role, if you're interviewing for a role and you'd like my help, podcast@samuellinton.com. I have helped hundreds of people over the years get jobs, land bigger jobs. I've negotiated salaries with them. I've helped them to figure out how to negotiate. I love that stuff. I've never done it myself because all of the roles I've been in are what they are. And so, when it comes to dealing with people, I know how executives think and I know how most employees think. So it's my job to get you to realize both sides of that coin. So if you want my help, I would love to work with you on your specific situation. podcast@samuellinton.com. All right. So remember, we're looking at the real purpose of that executive interview. Like, why are we here? It's about minimizing the risk of bringing you on. Also, the idea of speaking with the team, not at the team, and integrating. And I just want to say one more thing. This is where I know I feel some of you digitally, I feel it pulling me. It's like there's something pulling me right now. You're saying, okay, well, how are we going to show our competence? Because I want them to know that I have done X, Y, and Z, and I want them to know about my bona fides, and I want them to see my degrees. I'm going to bring my summa cum laude degree and put it on the wall. I want to do all that. I get that. But listen, they're going to vet you before you come to this interview. When this much money is involved, they're not bringing you in on a whim. They're not going, I hope this guy that we're going to spend 6 hours with actually went to college. Or I hope this person that we ended up getting on the plane to come and interview with 6 people, I hope they actually know how to do private equity. They already vetted you in that regard. They already know that you know how to do the job, or they wouldn't be asking you. So please, 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 I'm not saying that's not important. I'm just saying that there's more going on in this interview than what you are planning for. It's very similar, if I could step out of this light for a moment, to the presentation side of things, where people, when they're focusing on presentations, focus on content over how they say what they say. And in reality, people remember how you delivered the content more than your actual delivery of the content. They remember if you were energetic. They remember if you were engaging. They remember if you involved them. They remember if you had empathy for their situation. The same rules apply when it comes to your interviewing for jobs like this. So you have to keep in mind your bona fides, your competency. If they didn't think you were competent, you wouldn't have gotten that phone call. For this level of jobs, remember, entry-level jobs are a little bit different. If you want to go apply at Moe's or Comcast, as an entry-level data entry person or something, they're going to be looking mostly at, experience, some competency, and they're not really focused on this. Me and you right now, we're having a conversation about executive level, high paying, multi-six-figure, maybe close to seven-figure jobs. So this is a different realm, different type of exposure. And you have to look at it this way, or else you're going to lose opportunities to focus on the things that they're thinking of. All right, so likability, integration. All right, last, and this is similar to something I said weeks before. You have to demonstrate confidence without arrogance. You have to demonstrate confidence without arrogance. This is so hard to qualify, but it means everything when you have an interview. Because if you come across as arrogant, they don't want you on the team. You have failed the sniff check. They don't want to see you at the coffee bar. They're annoyed that you're there. They don't want some cocky, arrogant jerk. Oh, you know how many deals I've done? Is this all you do? Is it forget, I'm not hiring that person. I'm not hiring that person. Also, I'm not hiring the person that will ask me permission to go to the bathroom. Hey, is it okay if I stand here? Can I sit over here? What am I allowed to do? What am I doing? Now, I'll allow a little bit of that for nervousness, but I want someone, and executive leaders want somebody who is confident, that they're confident in their own skin, that when something goes wrong, they don't lose their marbles and they, collapse in themselves. So let me give you an example of how this will come across. So when you are speaking, a way to demonstrate confidence over arrogance would be, I'll give you two scenarios. Let me give the arrogant scenario. All right, the arrogant scenario. Let's say I was interviewing with your company and you were wanting to see if you want to take me on to overhaul the communication strategy for your executive team. If I came in for that interview and I stood up and I was talking and you're asking me questions and I have your team there, I would go, look, I am the best that I do at what I do. I am the one who really shows people how to communicate because you don't know what you need. I know what you need. You don't know what you've got deficiencies in. I know what you've got deficiencies in. I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been training leaders for 2 decades. I have all these degrees. All right, now I'm going to pause you. This is exaggerated, but not really. Because in the interview process, we desperately want people to know about our bona fides. But that's not how you do it. That's arrogance. Now, confidence is this. And this is a shortcut to confidence. Instead, talk about experiences you've had working with other people. Okay, so for example, let's say I'm interviewing for you to come and I'm going to be the communications director for your company. And I'm going to help all of you learn how to communicate better. I'm going to say, look, you have so many talented people on this team. I could tell. And it's crazy because just last year, I was working with a team of pharmacists. And these people, when I walked in the room, I'm like, I know I am the dumbest person in the room. And they had so much to offer. And when they started to communicate, just by making some tweaks and tapping into the relational side of communication, I saw them light up. I saw them get excited about making sales calls. I saw them get excited about working with doctors that before they were maybe avoiding dealing with. And it really gave me hope for what can happen when people focus on their communication. It really changes the game for teams. And your team is already so strong. You spending time to invest in this kind of training can really change the whole culture of your team. Now, This subtle shift is doing two things. Number one, you are showing them, hey, you know what I did over there with that team of pharmacists? I killed it. I did a really good job. But you're not saying that. You are making your client the hero. Look what they did. They changed the whole trajectory. Like, it was really, really apparent. You showed and you didn't tell. They know you're involved because you were there. I worked with a team of pharmacists, right? This is all true, by the way. But you're not saying, I'm the only answer. I'm the one. And you're rewarding them, the pharmacists, for taking action and hiring somebody like you. That is confidence. That's saying, I did this here, and most likely if we work together, your results are going to be the same because your team is just as awesome. Your team is just as driven. Your team is just as dynamic as that other team. So this is part and parcel how you exude confidence without arrogance. When you exude arrogance, you are showing how insecure you are. When I had somebody I was working with, they wanted to show their bona fides. And they said every job interview they had, they were told before that they have to do, show them their projects, show them what they've been responsible for. And they were going to front load it into their presentation. And this is what I said. I said, here's what I want you to do. If they ask for that as a part of your presentation, and when I say presentation, I'm talking they had slides, they had handouts, they had white paper, all the things. I said, just put a little slide on the end with a timeline. That's all. That's all. So if they want to really get into your background, just go, I just threw this slide up because it's visual. I mean, you could ask me anything about this. Here it is. Make it like it's no big deal. Because I want them to see that you're confident that you're the right person and you don't need to prove it. You being there interviewing, you already proved it. You already proved you have the bona fides. You already proved you have the competency. But now you have to prove that you're confident to speak as if you belong and not as if you are better. Again, speak to belong, not speak to look better. Your words project who you are. Now, I don't like these points in this podcast as much because they're vague because I don't know your specific details. But I will tell you, you want to aim to, number one, start with understanding the real purpose of an executive type interview. That's the first thing. The second thing you have to look at is you're speaking with the team, not at the team. You're speaking with them, not at them. So remember, you're bringing them into that conversation. You're pretending like you are a part of the team already. You're showing your culture before you actually become part of the culture. And finally, you have to demonstrate confidence without arrogance by showing the way that you look at people that you've worked with, so that way they are demonstrating, that you are demonstrating, I should say, what it would be like if they worked with you. Now again, I'll say this to close. If you are looking for an executive role and you are interviewing, probably one of the most important investments you can make is in the services that I offer. Now, that's not to say that I'm the best one at doing it. That's to say that if you want to get interview coaching, it's one of the services, one of the investments in yourself that most likely will pay almost immediately. Because I worked with someone that got like almost 100% increase in their salary. Well, do you think my little pittance of a fee even compares to what they're going to be making in 6 months because they focused on this stuff? And so I want to encourage you, podcast@samuellinton.com. I would love to be your coach. I would love to coach you in all things speaking. I would love to help you because we believe that when a leader gets better, the whole entire organization gets better. So with that said, Sam Linton out. Shift your mindset, find your voice, change your world. We'll see you next time.